Hey folks, it's Bill at Whole Life Soaps, and today we're going to do episode 7 of Can You Soap With It, where we're going to make coffee soap. And I gotta admit, I'm cheating a little bit today because I already know that this works out. I actually make a coffee soap in my store already, but people wanted to know how to do it. And I thought, well, you know, those of you who've been following along, to be a great tutorial. So this time we'll kind of just go with something that I know already works, but I want to kind of show you my process for it. I like, you can use any kind of coffee you want, but I get my coffee from Bigfoot Coffee up here in the high desert of California. They're a Wrightwood business. I like to support local people whenever possible. This is their Yerba Chefe blend, and what I do is I get it ground, and I have a cold brew system, and I'll put the grounds in it. I've already run the coffee through, but you just fill it up with distilled water, and there's a little hole in the bottom where you can plug it up. A little cork. It's still a little bit wet because it's still draining just a slight bit, but because I'm going to use the grounds for a mud mask later. But basically, you just let it sit for a few days. I let mine sit for anywhere from 24 to 72 hours. I like to really steep that coffee, because caffeine has a lot of great benefits for the skin. You know, it's a skin toner. It just creates vibrance and shine. Not to mention that you get a little bit of caffeine through the skin when you use the soap, because it doesn't go away. It stays there in the soap. So it's kind of a cool ingredient to use. In this system, you got these little round filters that fit into the bottom, and when you pull the cork out, you know, it drains, and it drains not super slow, but, you know, a steady trickle. It does take about 3-4 hours for it to fully drain. And then you can use the grounds for other things. My wife likes to, she likes to compost with them and garden with flower beds with them. I use them for mud masks and things like that. I also take this is about a half cup. I just pack it in and I add it to my oils. And that is all the coffee ground that I'm going to put into this. Like any other powder, I'll disperse it before we get started. But I did want to show you something else that I do with this soap too. I made out of pourable silicone this particular mold. It's a liner that fits along the bottom of my standard molds that I use for my regular soap making ventures. And what it does is it adds this really cool effect on the top. Let me grab a bar and I'll show you. Just sit tight. Get the wrapper off. I can put Bigfoot Coffee on here. I like to give shout outs where shout outs are due. Their coffee is really good. They are online too if you want to buy coffee from them. BigfootCoffee.com, I think, is the website, but look it up, Bigfoot Coffee Wrightwood, you can find it. But anyway, come on, plastic. There we go, static clean. It creates this fake coffee bean look. They look like real coffee beans, but they are actually soap. You can see that the coffee grounds are also in the bar of soap. Of course, we stamp our logo onto every bar, but they look like real coffee beans. Well, I guess it helps if I do that. They look like real coffee beans. It's a pretty neat effect. It's easy to make, but it's not a cheap process. The pourable silicone, it's kind of expensive. It's a couple $100 for two 7-pound buckets. That's like 2 gallons each, right? So you really have to plan your projects out and be careful with how much you use. My mold is only about a ½ an inch thick. I had to make it out of foam board, pour coffee beans on it. I had to spray it with like adhesive and then pour the coffee beans on and then pour the mold over that. And then I had to go back through when I was done and pick all the frickin' beans off. It was a pain in the butt. I actually had my employee pick them off. I wasn't going to do it. I started and said, no thank you. So. But you know, time's money and you got to put your time where you're valuable. But anyway, thank you to everyone who did that. Anyway, let's get on with the coffee soap. So I have my base in here, my coconut oil, shea butter, castor oil, and olive oil mixture. And I've added the ground coffee. So let's disperse that ground coffee so that it blends evenly into all the lye mixture. By the way, this is not a soap that's going to have multiple colors. It's going to look just like this, this really deep, rich brown. So this is, about 60 plus ounces of coffee. When I got done draining this, it was about 48 ounces. So I topped it off with distilled water to make the difference up. And then, so it's what they call water replacement, because there's all sorts of liquids that you can replace in your soap process. I will tell you, it stinks pretty bad when you're making the soap. It's just got a nasty smell to it. It's not pleasant at all, but it makes a great bar soap. Let's get this blended up. Well, that wasn't smart, was it? Let's wipe that off. There's always something. All right, let's try it like this. There we go. Last thing I need is lye water eating through my electrical cord, Multitasking. Okay, we'll finish blending that in a second, but let's just review. So you've got your regular oil base. You put about a half a cup of ground coffee in it, coffee that's been brewed. You want a nice fine ground too. You don't want a rough chop on it because that'll scratch the skin. The finer it is, the better it is. You cold brew your coffee. Don't hot brew it, cold brew it and let it steep like tea for about 3 days, and then use that as a water replacement. Now, the thing is, coffee, once it mixes with lye, doesn't smell good. It doesn't have that aromatic quality of coffee. If you don't scent it, it'll end up being kind of an unscented soap. And there'll be a slight nuttiness to it, but it's not very good. I made it that way one time and didn't like it. So what I do have here is a coffee essential oil. It's an extract, and that smells like coffee. So we're gonna throw that in there because we want our soap to smell good. We don't want it smelling not so good. So. feel free to fast forward until you see me pour, guys. It's going to be a couple minutes. Just about there. I think that's probably good enough. I forgot to bring a plate over here. Let me go put this in the sink. These are chemical grade gloves because I certainly don't want to get burnt. I've been burnt, it's not fun. So, I mean, from the lye. So, anyway. So the thing about this soap is that it's like a pineapple upside down cake. The top is actually going to be on the bottom because what we're going to have once we're done are those fake coffee beans along the top ridge, right? So let's pour it in because it's about ready. I like this a little thinner so it gets into all the little nooks and crannies of that mold. Whoops, a little too much. Are we gonna run down? We all right? Yep. Okay, keep that there. My table's not quite even, so this side is always slightly off balance. Let's see if I can get it. Let me get this towel under there. Okay, there we go. All right, so anyway, that's coffee soap. We will reveal this next week. I'll take the mold off and show you how it looks when it comes off and all that. But you know, I know I cheated a little bit this week with this ingredient because I already sell the coffee soap. But it's still interesting to know, right? If you're a soaper and you want to add a great soap to your line, this is great for mechanics and gardeners. It gets the dirt right off the hands. It's awesome. If you're an oily skin person, this is a great soap for you too. So anyway, thanks for watching this week. I'm Bill, owner of Whole Life Soaps in Rhinewood, California. And come back next week and we'll see how this thing turned out, all right? Peace.